Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the Cosmic class and 10 strongest Cosmic champions in my opinion. And Cosmic class has had a quite interesting story throughout the history of MCOC, because for a really long time Cosmic class was the biggest class but filled with absolute duds. Then it had a major revival where it effectively reigned over the game for quite a long time. And then with the release of 7 stars, things have started to change, where Cosmic class still has plenty of value in it, but it's definitely on the downslide. And the reason for that is because Kabam made top Cosmic champions so busted that they seemingly are terrified of releasing them as 7 stars. And Cosmic class is doing by far the absolutely worst when it comes to the top 5 champions in the class being available as 7 stars. In almost all the classes, you have at least 2 or 3 of the top 5 champions out as 7 stars. Not so much with the Cosmics. And that is starting to show. There's just no way around it. And the time goes on, it's going to show more and more and more. Right. Therefore, Cosmic class ranked second to the bottom. Before we go any further, including the Cosmic class ranking itself, I must emphasize that this list is a mixture of my own thoughts with current game relevance and trends. It does not reflect any statistical, numerical values and stuff like that, because I do not have the data Kabam has when it comes to the use of champions and stuff like that. All that said, we all play the game differently, we value different things, we have different commitment and skill levels, we like different masteries, we prefer different champions, and all that is perfectly fine. Only thing that I ask you is that you recognize that this is the way I view the game. And this list will not, coincide with every single one of yours. And the main value criteria for these lists this time around is the general desirability, the hype, the match factor, the champions that are chased and when acquired actually get the catalyst, the champions that we see most often in Alliance Wars, in Battlegrounds, and other top game heavy content, the champions that, are getting most attention, most use, most catalysts from the most skilled and capable players in the entire game. In some champions' case, being released as a 7 star matters a lot. And in some champions' case, not being released as a 7 star doesn't matter much, because they are still able to, be present and keep up the pace. So it's all on individual basis. All that said, time to get in the nitty-bitty gritty, right? So the old Cosmic top 10 is right here: Hercules, Hling, Gallen, CGR, Venom, Adam, Warlock, Null, Hyperion, Nova, Vox, and Gore. There are some changes, even though the majority of the champions obviously are still there. There will be some omissions that you guys will notice very soon as well. And one of them is Nova. Now, Nova might receive a resurgence, as he just has entered the Titan pool, and 7-star Novas are starting to come to the game. But for quite a while, Nova was a fairly visible champion as a fairly annoying defender, often because of his SIG ability that increased the buff duration by 80%. That included random buffs from nodes like Power Gain and Unstoppable. And obviously he is also somewhat underrated on offense, and he was very solid core counter, so on and so forth. But he just doesn't have the same game presence anymore. Therefore, Nova currently, in my opinion, is out of the top 10 list. Similar things to OG Thor, he shines here and there, and I absolutely love the champion. I just don't think he is in top 10. Surfer as well, he, can be seen here, there, somewhere. I recently took him to Alliance War, and he is one of my most used Alliance Quest champions, but he just doesn't have quite the game presence. Similar to Cersei, Cosmic class has quite a lot of champions that are alright, that are decent to good, pending your own personal preference. I have seen people do some crazy things with Null, but objectively he isn't what everybody wants to pull. Some people do well with Gladiator post buff, some people do well with Gamora, some people like Gore, and that is kind of the character of Cosmic class, because it is a big class. There are tons of champions that are solid, but we're not really taking a look at those. Still wanted to shout them out, like Angela can be an absolute beast in right situations. But now let's move on to where the current Cosmic class is at, in my opinion. And with that said, I think at spot number 10 is Hyperion. Hyperion has always been present in Cosmic top lists, And he has effectively aged extremely gracefully given how old he is. In fact, a lot of the newer champions we do compare to Hyperion, where it is quite shameful that we got Gladiator release, which was effectively a worse Hyperion in almost every single way imaginable. And now with Hyperion being released as a 7-star, we do see him somewhat more often in battlegrounds. It is impossible to deny the fact that we don't see him as much as we used to. We absolutely do not. Hyperion has always been a champion that can do well at a lot of things, but he never really did anything the best. Not really. He's always the second, third, fourth best option for a specific champion to counter, and that still is kind of his charm. Because you can spam level 1s, get tons of incinerates, and barely make contact with the opponent, thus bypassing some damaging mechanics back. You can spam heavy attacks to buff build and get furies to get massive big numbers. You can go for level 2 to access armor break and stuns and go for stun loops if you're lucky. Level 3 and defeat enemies that way. He has access to regeneration, poison immunity, as I mentioned before, dots, and the big base damage as well. The downsides of Hyperion are the fact that he is quite RNG reliant, because pretty much every single thing depends on how many furies he's going to get on his heavy attacks if you are going that route, and that can vary drastically, as well as how many incinerates you apply. And that is a minus his inconsistency. The absolute plus is the fact that he has pretty much the craziest power gain in the game, and Kabam, I don't think, has ever dared to introduce generic power gain that exceeds this guy. So overall, I still think he has a place in the game. I still think we do see him now that he has become more available as a 7-star and people have finally started duping him more. We get Hyperion ranked. Currently, we are enjoying a cosmic centric meta where Hyperion is a very solid champion for that as well. Next spot number 9 and 10, I kind of gave it to both Adam and Vox, because I do think they are in virtually identical places in the game. I do think both Adam, Warlock, and Vox are champions that can do well and tremendously well sometimes. And they're both completely different in some ways, because Vox does all his damage with damage over time effects. Adam Warlock does all of his damage with big yellow numbers. But they're both a bit ramp-uppy in order to access their max damage output. But effectively, they have gained some traction. They have gained some popularity. They are sprinkled in everywhere in the game. There are people who pull them and are disappointed. There are people who pull them and take them to rank 3 instantly because they absolutely love the characters. So these both are quite polarizing champions, but it is undeniable that we do see them across the game. Perhaps Adam Warlock maybe slightly more, but I do think especially recently Vox has, regained some ground as well. And as I mentioned before, neither one of these two is going to be everybody's cup of tea. Like, for me personally, Adam Warlock is just not my type of champion, because you can do extremely well with him, but AI can completely mess you up. And therefore, the fight results are often just so different for no reason of your own, no fault of your own. It entirely kind of can depend on AI. Additionally, it is quite stressful, or I find it quite stressful to use Adam Warlock in competitive scenarios, where so many things can go wrong, namely the AI, and you need to make so many split-second decisions. I just, do not enjoy a playstyle like that. Then again, there are some people who swear by Adam Warlock. In my 2023 champion ranking video, I got almost beheaded by some of my subscribers for disrespecting the Adam, basically. And Vox effectively has garnered similar support, where I look at him as a solid champion, and there's going to be this group of players who will look at him as like the absolute best, the god, the coolest thing there is. And there will be people who will absolutely refuse to even try and use him, or just say he flat out stinks. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Both of them are very solid champions for right and proper occasions and for right and proper people who plays them. But there is a definite value in both of them if they are compatible with you. Moving on to number 8 is Maestro. And Maestro is quite simple. Maestro's relevance and popularity largely comes from the fact that, well, he's a solid defender and he's available, guaranteed, no RNG involved. If you are a sweaty tryhard and if you do 100% Necropolis, there you go, a 7-star Maestro. You just complete it, You can get yourself a 6-star Maestro, awaken it, max sig it, and descend him, and he's still going to do decent on defense. Now, I do personally think that Maestro has started slipping more on defense because he does have a fair amount of counters. Aside from the typical mystic culprits like Chavez and, Tigra nukes, and we see people using Hood on him, we see people using Kushala and absolutely destroy him. He also has quite a lot of counters outside of his class, which I think has kind of become a large downfall for him. Because, in many metas, you often can nuke him down to CGR, then, he absolutely gets obliterated with Kate, and there's, quite a few other champions that can do well or well enough against Maestro. Therefore, he has become significantly less scary as a defender that would completely wreck your day. Where he has maintained his value is because he's still chunky, he's still quite big meat stick, and he still will win you every round 100% if opponent doesn't have the right counter. And he can still win you rounds even if opponent does have a decent counter, just by taking slightly longer to finish off. In some Alliance War nodes, he can be extremely tricky as well. And now, currently, he's also kind of getting a bit of limelight as an offensive champion. But fact of the matter is, Maestro arguably is the second or third most ranked Cosmic champion. Now, again, I do not think that is because of his innate value and innate, hype. It is because of his availability, because he's a guaranteed acquisition. That said, he's still present in all of the most competitive game modes. People do rank him up, and it is impossible to ignore it. Therefore, he has been rewarded with spot number 8. Spot number 7 is going to be Null. Now, Null is a 7-star in the basic pool already, and, we do see him more and more. Let's not pretend that Null is of a quality of Hling or something like that. He's not. But at the same time, there is plenty in his kit that does make him valuable. Even though ultimately he is a ramp-up champion, his damage can be ramped up quickly enough to still be sufficient for quicker game modes. And he's somewhat unique for a Cosmic champion, Cosmic class, where he doesn't really rely on any buffs. His damage delivery methods are interesting. His ability to affect combat power rate, bypass evade, access to instant ungodly amounts of debuffs. There's plenty to like about Null, and we definitely do see a lot of people investing in Null as well, especially when getting him awakened. Now that 7-star 6 stones are becoming more and more available, 7-star rank 2 dupe Null or rank 3 dupe Null is definitely not a scarce sight for sure. And he's currently holding steady in Cosmic class, in my opinion, and he is one of the better 7-star pulls in Cosmic class for sure, which is also, in my opinion, helping him remain relevant, considering the fact that vast majority of the champions above him on this list are not available as 7-star. So he is like one of the 3 best Cosmic 7-stars available, in my opinion, maybe 4 best Cosmic 7-stars available out there. Speaking of that, Gallen. Gallen is a champion that definitely is taking a step back. Currently, you wouldn't tell that because Gallen is the Bane, the man, the muck man in the battlegrounds, but that is entirely due to meta. We're currently in an armor up buff meta, which directly fuels Gallen to no end, and Gallen is right now and currently in battlegrounds as strong as he will ever be. However, also it is impossible to deny that last 3 or so seasons, so let's say 4.5 months, Gallen has hardly been seen in battlegrounds. And Gallen is seen less in Alliance Wars, and Gallen's used less, period, in the game. And there are multiple reasons for that. Obviously, Kabam releasing champions that he does not necessarily do well against, and the meta is shifting, and meta is becoming faster because of the attack nodes or them being overly specific. But the really down to the business point here will be that Gallen is a champion that effectively has a set reach. And once that reach is exceeded, it becomes significantly less valuable. It's also a champion who you want and should be ranked up as high as possible for similar to equal ranked fights. Gallen does tremendously well punching down or punching on equal weight class. There's a reason why we don't bring in Gallens for like Necropolis or any longer form content. Why Gallen isn't like a popular used champion in Act 8. Because health pools are large. Helpos are massive. And once they're bigger, then you can blow up with Gallen, kind of like quickly and efficiently. He's just not that guy anymore. His whole shtick was get in a Gallen, drop like a special or two, and then harvest, and then opponent's dead. That is not as fast as it, could be, but it was always super effective. But if you need to do that twice, it's just no longer worth it. And therefore, all of this, why I'm telling you guys, is, well, quite simple, really. Because Gallen is the definition of a champion that will lose his value for as long as he's not available as a 7-star, as the game progresses, as we get chunkier and chunkier champions. If a main set of champions, or majority of the champions in Battleground decks are going to be rank 3s, 6-star, rank 5s, and Gallen is just not going to see much play at all there, or in Alliance Wars, or much else. He's just not going to be that guy. If you're going to get a 7-star Gallen, I do believe he has a very good shot at taking his spot back and, remaining relevant for quite a while. Which is also why I kind of think that out of all of the cosmic gods that we're about to discuss, Gallen likely has the best chance of being released as a 7-star. Quite frankly, because, we know for a fact they're not going to be releasing Hercules as a 7-star unless they nerf him. And it's quite hard for us to imagine them releasing the other two as well. Therefore, Gallen's definitely, taking a break. That said, currently, you still do see him still valuable. People still rank him up. I do have a 6-star rank 5 ascended as well. And, there are matchups that he can absolutely tear through without a doubt. Moving on, spot number 5. That's Venom. Venom is effectively second best cosmic 7-star in the game. That's it. Venom is also a very interesting tale of having a massive glow up due to being a 7-star and due to having a good relic. Venom has his own relic that significantly supercharged his damage, and that has resulted in Venom becoming like a very, very good, reliable nuke champion. Obviously, his damage is still RNG reliant and based on which symbiote buffs you get. There is a little bit of control in that, but, it is down to RNG and your crit luck and all that stuff. But ultimately, Venom is a fairly straightforward champion, quite old buff already, where he has access to armor break, bleed, and, a handful of buffs. That's just about it, really. Then he can also nullify some attacks on his level 1, which, becomes handy as well, especially because he heals of that. And that's kind of just about it. He can, shut down Spider champion away. But with the relic, as a 7-star rank 2 or 3, he has turned into an absolute damage machine. A rank 3 7-star Venom is really, really scary dude. Especially as well, because you never know exactly how fast the opponent's going to come out. And in some metas, 7-star rank 3 Venom is finishing fights sub 20 seconds. So that is to be respected. So in my personal opinion, Venom is definitely aging gracefully. He's second best cosmic 7-star in the game. And is putting in a tremendous amount of work throughout the entire game. And he's also cosmic 7-star that I'm missing, which is not surprising at all. Right. So now we are at top 4. Fourth spot, we're going to give it to Serpent. Now, the thing with Serpent is obviously he's popular and sought after because he's a defender. And he is, in my opinion, the biggest bullshit Kabam has ever made. Even Bullseye is not as shit as Serpent is. I hate the fact that he's made. He offers a little offensive utility. There are matchups, especially against tech class, that he can do relatively well. But again, he's offensively a ramp-up champion. He did really well against the Annihilus, which is quite surprising. But offensively, you're not going to use him much. He's almost always going on defense. Unless he's out to destroy some fam or something. Or Red Skull. That said, as a defender, he's everything I hate in defenders. He really is. Because you cannot play out of him. You cannot skill your way through that fight. Even with good counters, there's plenty of places and ways to fuck this up. We have obviously the mandatory unblockable, undexable, unmissable special attacks. We have tons of power gain. We have immortality, and we have crap ton of block damage and whatnot. And it's just bullshit. He should have never been made, just like Bullseye. Both of those champions are sucking the fun out of MCOC. That is my general view. Hate the fact that he exists. I hate the fact that Bullseye exists, and I do think this game would be better off. I think this game would be more enjoyable if Bullseye and Serpent would not exist. And again, to clarify, I'm not against hard defenders. I think like Photon is hard defender. I think Onslaught is hard defender. But at least you can fight against them with a large portion of your roster, if you're skilled enough. Obviously, there are champions who absolutely destroy them. There are champions, you can bring in pretty much anybody against Photon. And yeah, the fight might take a while, but at least you're not going to die just because you play. It's not the case with Bullseye, and it's not the case with Serpent. Again, both of those champions should just be deleted from the game. Absolutely hate them. Kabam should have never made them the way they are, and Kabam should genuinely rethink everything they are doing right now as champions, because so far in 2024 they have just released 2 absolutely bullshit cancer defenders and mid attackers. I don't know what has gone wrong where, but they have taken a huge step back in champion quality. Now that said, Serpent is still staple in the game. Serpent is a must-have. Serpent is a must-rank. Serpent is a chase champion. Serpent is present everywhere in Alliance War and Battlegrounds, and well, bro, yeah. He is one of the best defenders in the game, if not the best defender in the game right now. Because even with he has like maybe 10 counters in a game, if that, 5 that are being used commonly. And even with those champions, he still takes a while. There's still, penalty for errors, and it's not like a foolproof fight. So even with having pretty much a perfect option against him, he can still mess you up badly. And then obviously we have 284 champions that will just die against Serpent. Not because you suck. 98% of the champions in this game will never beat him like in a Battlegrounds match. They'll just die. And that's bullshit. But that's also valuable. That's also a win condition, basically. That is also something that everybody's after. Therefore, it's undeniable that Serpent is at the top of his class list, at the top of this year's rankings list as well, basically. So now we're going to talk about the top 3 gods. And one of them has had a glow up, and that is CGR. CGR is as popular as he has ever been, pretty much, since his release. He has absolutely had a glow up. He is doing tremendously well. He is a staple pretty much everywhere now again. And that's just to do with his ability to nuke pretty much everything. And nuke, Maestros, nuke onslaughts. You can use him against Bullseye. And it just so happened that he was kind of like fairly decently good against some of the old guard staples. He's good against Korg, and he's good against Nick Fury, and he's good against Korg, Nick Fury. Killmonger is one of his best matchups ever. And then obviously we do have most of the new guard defenders, which he's also quite good against. So it is kind of natural that people are, hey, that CGR guy. Remember, he was quite good, but right now he's crazy good. So yeah, he's one of the best offensive champions in the game right now, in my opinion, and that kind of shows. Again, not available to 7-star, and that sooner or later is also going to show. Because 6-star CGR Ascended right now does his job just about fine. Not so much when we get higher ranks and levels. So again, another champion that still has managed to remain absolutely at the top of the game, but the clock's ticking. Gallen's time already has kind of come. Gallen's already on the way out, and unless he becomes a 7-star, then he's gonna get left behind. With CGR, his clock's ticking, but he's still here. That's the way I see it. And right now, he's actually managing to become more useful than he has been previously. Therefore, CGR has, moved up in the world, but I don't think he has managed to overtake Hulkling. And Hulkling is the second best Cosmic Champion. I genuinely thought and wanted to put Hulkling as the first one, because he is the most present Cosmic Champion in the competitive game modes specifically. And we're going to talk more about Hulkling. We're going to discuss Hulkling first, and then I'm going to explain why Herc remained at the top. But yeah, Hulkling, if initially we kind of looked at Gallen, Hulkling, that were the same, then there's absolutely no doubt now. Hulkling, similar to CGR actually, because, for now, his nuke ability and the way he tears through champions is still there. The amount of matchups that he can take, the fact that he's better defender as well than, most of the Cosmics on this list is super important. And right now, again, he just nukes just about everybody. You can bring him in against Photon, you can bring him in against Onslaught, you can bring him in against a whole plethora of different champions. He absolutely violates pretty much the entire tech class as well. And he's just such a strong presence in the game. He's probably currently the most present Cosmic Champion in the competitive game on specifically. Then why isn't he the number one champion? Why isn't he? And the simple factor is that Herc still exists. And even though I do think that Herc has taken somewhat of a step back in the game, the fact of the matter is that Herc is the champion that, forces people to spend. Tons of people, who will buy $100 bundle just because they have a good chance to get a Hercules. Herc is pretty much an automatic rank up. Similar to Hulkling, but I think most of the competitive players have forgotten at this point that Herc was immediate rank up. The Herc was like, I get Herc, I rank him up, I jam him, I sig him up, and done. And it's been a while already for most of the competitive players since we have had to chase Hercules and rank him up, that we kind of take him for granted now. Because obviously the one champion pretty much Kabam has stated will never be a 7-star, and that is already a significant qualifier. And he's also, unlike Hulkling, unlike everything else, he's also the one champion that is changing what Kabam does in every game mode. I don't think that Kabam is going through, Hulkling or CGR proofing most of the game modes. I do think Kabam is taking active steps to limit Herc incursions. I do think Kabam is taking active steps to limit Herc in every single bit of new content. And it's because his presence is looming over the game. I do think Herc is single-handedly the reason why so many of the new Cosmic Champions sucked, for instance. And therefore, still, I do think that Herc generates, the most chase from anybody who doesn't have him. I do think Hulkling currently gets used more by competitive players, but I do think Herc is the one that most people are after if you don't have him. The Herc is the one that, for most people progressing throughout the game, if you get Hulkling, if you get Herc, everybody's going to go with Herc. And ranking up Hercules is kind of like a prerequisite. Like most of these champions, especially like top 4, top 5 Cosmic Champions, we look at as staples. We look at as, you get that champion, you rank him up, and we need them. Then Herc is the one that you're going to rank up before asking anybody. Because people ask, should I rank up Hulkling or CGR or something like that? With Hercules, you don't ask anyone. With Hercules, you just get him and you rank him up. And I think that is the ultimate, proof and point of argument here. He's so dominant, he's so popular, he has changed the game so much, he has crushed the competition. And even if we don't see him as much, and we still do, make no mistake, almost always there as well. Because there's obviously insane amount of utility in Hercules. His stun immunity, his true focus, his obviously immortality for some of the game modes, but his stun and access to buffs and secondary damage source and infuriate and everything basically is still an monster. But again, Herc is definitely bound for the Quake treatment as well. Because, you know, we have forgotten what Quake in the game largely. And it's because Quake has received the largest nerf possible in the game, just not being released at relevant star levels. Effectively, Quake got deleted from MCOC over time, gradually and slowly. And the same thing is going to happen to Herc, for a very good reason. Kabam's terrified of him, and he's costing Kabam a lot of money. I think whatever amount of money Kabam made from selling Herc, they have long since lost from people having Hercules. So there you go. That is my Cosmic Top 10. You can take a look at it again. I'm going to bring it up here. I still think Hercules is the top of the Cosmic. Like, for me personally, when it comes to like competitive game modes, Alliance Wars and Battleground, specifically Hling and CGR, I think are above him there. And then we have Serpent and Venom, because, you know, they do exist as 7 stars, and Serpent is a bullshit defender, and that's a massive, massive thing. Gallen's taking swing down. Then we have Null, Maestro, Adam, Warlock, and Vox, and Hyperion. So anyhow, that is just about it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the good buttons. I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next